Lars Rossiger here to share a little bit of some of my thoughts on a bit of a guitar technique. I have here a 5-course Spanish guitar, also known commonly as the Baroque guitar. This particular approach, I devised myself, but other versions of this and other approaches, other kind of ways to arrive at similar ideas, of course, are out there already. Now, I should say also, this is, of course, as I mentioned, a particular style of the instrument. This technique, I think it's quite interesting because it works for many other versions of the guitar and many other string instruments and beyond. So hopefully that's a bit of a, how do we say, a bit of a draw to this. Now, also, I've explored similar ideas in other ways, and I will link to a couple of one or two of those videos that have some overlap with this technique. I'll link to those below here on YouTube. Now, basically what we're getting at is how to interweave a melody into a strummed style. The first sort of real kind of instance of this particular approach, I came up with it for a very brief composition called Pasacalles Local, which is sort of a local stroll through the streets in a way. Now, what I'm going to do then is show you how a melody fits into a chord progression in one of many possible ways, obviously, and also kind of give you a bit of a look at the goal, right? What's the goal here? So this melody, again, it kind of depends on a certain chord progression and vice versa. There are, of course, instances where the relationship isn't so tight, but well, let's see what I mean here. So this is the melody that we're going to be aiming to combine with a couple of chords. And again, let it be known here that this is a pretty basic application of these ideas. They can definitely be used for more, shall we say, kind of interesting or advanced or more, kind of less, something beyond the foundation now. But of course, coming back to those basic rudiments is always a good idea. Now, the melody, basically like this. Okay, nice kind of typical melodic outline for some of that, kind of real kind of, again, typical, historical Spanish guitar sound. La, ti, do, re, mi, fa, mi, basically is the idea, right? La, ti, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, ti, do. With some kind of, connective tissue there. But that's the basic idea. Now, this is going to work pretty well with just a few basic chords of, again, the Pasacalles, as the name of the composition shows. So what I'm doing here is basically that kind of move. Si, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. It gives some good support to a vocal melody, for example, or some other instrument playing a little bit more kind of purely melodically. When you hear it just with the chords, there's kind of a implied melody, but other things get in the way, obviously. There's a lot to say here, but that is really the main idea. I realize that it works pretty well with Gaspar Sanz, the famous Sarabandas. So if it's that's obviously A minor, D minor, E, or an E7. This is D, G, D, A. All right. So that's the melody, and yeah, mi, re, mi, fa, mi, re, mi. Sorry, mi, re, do, fa. I think it's mi, re, do, fa, mi, re, do, re. It's a mi, re, do, mi, re, do. Now, sometimes when you're doing this with the chord melody kind of embedded in that way. In other words, I'm playing the chords, but finding ways to show that melody through them. Now, the melodies, your options melodically, right, are going to be pretty limited. But limits can be good things in composition. I believe Stravinsky said that the more limited the more limits he put upon his work, the freer he was. I don't know how sort of directly true that is, but something to think about. Now, if you want to get a little bit more detailed as far as some of the strumming technique goes, I think it's a good idea to include this part here, and I would reference Pablo Sapico, and what he does is talk about the strum, the trajectory of the right hand being an arc. And so what we can do is move the apex of that arc to where the melody note is. So if I'm going to play la, si, la, ti, do, just that much. It kind of sounds like I'm just going like this, right? Alternating between that A minor and kind of it's kind of like a, basically E major over A, if you want to think about it that way. But what I'm aiming to do, and this is subtle, but I think it's good practice, and it'll bring the melody out a little bit, and maybe even just kind of lead you to the next steps or the next kind of phases of this kind of thinking. Now, what I'm doing there is I'm putting the apex of that arc right at the melody note on the string. So it's here about in the middle. If these are the 5 strings, I'm going la, si, la, and then when I go to T, so the next string over, it's called the B string, that second string, right? So I'm going, like, if I give you the string numbers, right? 3, 3, 3, 2, 2. Right, so I move that arc over. One way to do it. Also on this kind of instrument, you get some doubling, so you can kind of play with where you aim that arc, right? When I go, when I wrap that little motive, that little kind of short melody up, and I go, do, ti, la. When I play do, ti, la, I can go 2, 2, 5 because I have, right? I have that high octave there on the fifth chorus. All right, so mi, mi, re, up on me, I'm aiming that arc down to the first string, right? So that kind of thinking, I think, will will be fruitful. That's a nice way also just to kind of get a little bit of support for your vocal melody or for your solo instrument. Those two examples I think are nice. Again, similar discussions I will link to. I also want to just mention a little bit more kind of forwardly that some of this similar kind of content and in particular content in English will be coming out via the Sociedad de la Vihuela. So there's a small blog post that I've written about some similar techniques, how to kind of infuse melody into the strummed style, and kind of combine more rhythmic, chord based kind of playing. Again, kind of getting some motivic, some motives in the mix, and getting some texture so that we aren't stuck with kind of just block chords that kind of clunk around. So again, hope this is this makes some sort of sense to you, and I hope this is useful. And there are little subtleties that just kind of might give you that touch that you wanted, and might turn an otherwise kind of again kind of clunky chunky sound into something a little bit more fluid. And then I think again as well as giving a bit of a launch kind of launch pad or jumping off point toward some more creative applications of this. And so thanks for paying attention here. If you want just a last little refresher of the sound, or kind of a more concise kind of example, I'll give you that same example of my original brief kind of seedling of a composition, and then I'll offer again that example, the technique as it can be applied to the sarabandas by Sans. So and yeah, the Sans. Couple little tidbits there. Hopefully that interests you, and thanks for listening, and all the best to you.